Top of the morning to you. Welcome to our special coverage of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I'm Olumide Macaulay. The headlines. Russia says Ukrainian drone hits apartments, cars in town near Moscow. Russia's Wagner boss posts first video since mutiny, announces major move to make Russia greater, hints he is in Africa. Plus, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to train in Greece. Talks about Greece helping to train Ukrainian F-16 pilots. Thank you for joining us. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that Russian forces repelled multiple attacks from the Ukrainian army, while Ukraine claimed its air force, missile and artillery units struck several Russian targets. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, its force improved the frontline situation in the direction of Kupiansk, repelling 4 Ukrainian offensives. The Russian forces repelled the Ukrainian offensive in Luhansk, Zaporizhia and Donetsk. Russia's air defenses shut down a Ukrainian Su-25 fighter jet in Donetsk. Meanwhile, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, AFU, said that there were 20 engagements in the frontline areas in the past 24 hours. Ukraine's Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar says its forces have gained control of 43 square kilometers of land in the direction of Bakhmut and made progress in the southern flank of Bakhmut. More than 20 homes and power infrastructure have been damaged after Russian missiles struck the central city of Kryvyi Rih today. City's Defense Council Chief Alexander Vilko said on Telegram that an elderly man suffered light cuts to his face in the attack. The council chief added that power and water supply in the city have been restored. Meanwhile, Russian officials said that the military had brought down 4 Ukrainian drones near Moscow and over the Bryansk region that borders Ukraine. One of the drones was shot down over a town outside Moscow that hosts the Moscow regional government. Video and picture from the scene shows broken windows in a high-rise apartment building, security services inspecting and collecting debris on the pavement, and damage to several cars. Russia's defense ministry said there were no injuries in the latest attack. And dashcam footage shot early today shows buildings glowing orange after a Ukrainian drone struck near Russia's capital. Airspace over the Russian capital was briefly closed and 3 major Moscow airports suspended flights. Ukraine does not directly take responsibility for drone strikes on Russian territory that have increased recently. Russian mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin posted his first video address since leading a short-lived rebellion in late June, appearing in a clip on Telegram channels affiliated with the Wagner Group. The head of the group, Prigozhin, said in his words, "The Wagner private military company is continuing to recruit and is working hard to make Russia even greater. Wagner is also seeking to help Africa become even more free." According to Russian media, the short video emerged online on Monday. Apparently, he was filmed in Africa. The PMC boss was armed and dressed in military garb while standing in a savannah-like landscape, as you can see, with multiple armed men and gun trucks visible in the background. Mr. Prigozhin was also quoted as saying the Wagner Group conducts reconnaissance and search activities, making Russia even greater on all continents and Africa even more free, in his words again, justice and happiness for all the African people, adding that the group has been pursuing ISIS, Al-Qaeda and other bandits. He further said Wagner is hiring real heroes, claiming that it continues to fulfill the tasks that were set and to which they made a promise that they can handle. Prigozhin did not elaborate on the specific nature of those tasks or the people who had set them. However, it was also not immediately clear when or where the address had been recorded. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Greece on Monday, saying Greece will train Ukrainian Air Force pilots to fly F-16 jets. It comes as Denmark and the Netherlands announced they will supply the first F-16s to Ukraine. He did not provide details of the training program, but officials from a coalition of 11 nations have said F-16 training will take place in Denmark and Romania. The Ukrainian president met with the Greek Prime Minister, and he also attended an informal dinner hosted by Mitsotakis of Western Balkan leaders with European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Charles Michel were in attendance. Now, earlier, before his trip to Greece, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked Denmark for military support to Ukraine in a speech he delivered to Parliament in Copenhagen. Mr. Zelensky and the First Lady Olena Zelenska were greeted with a standing ovation by Danish lawmakers. Russia has condemned the decision by Denmark, and the Netherlands announced on Sunday to donate F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, saying the move will escalate the conflict.
Now, Russian evil strikes with pain and death at Ukrainian cities and villages, but they openly say that Ukraine is not enough. Later, after our country, they want to carry the suffering further to Europe and to the world. And I'm sure you hear it from Moscow. All of Russia's neighbors are under threat if Ukraine does not prevail. International law will not be resuscitated. Democracies of the world, each of them can become a target either for missiles or for mercenaries or for destabilization, and I'm sure you can feel it. But Ukraine will prevail. When Putin ordered this invasion, he only believed in the length of his armed vehicles column, in power of explosions of Russian missiles. He believed that cruelty is capable of rewriting the history of an entire continent, erasing this history, pushing it back a century, yes, to crush everything that makes our continent and our countries peaceful. He believed only in force. Enforced without humanity. He trusted violence, and that is why he is weaker. We believe in something completely different, and that is why we become stronger, all of us, together with you. Thank you for your help, all the help provided to Ukraine. Thank you for harpoons. Russians afraid. Thank you. Caesars, Leopards, Bradleys, drones. Yes, they're afraid drones. And artillery. And thank you for demining machines. All this service freedom, service in this very moment, service to protect people's lives.
President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, and this is that moment. The large crowd of supporters waved the Ukrainian flags in Copenhagen in show of support to the Ukrainian president. He did seize the opportunity and told the gathering he was confident Russia will lose the war.
But this is not the only main thing. The main, dear friends, today we are confident that Russia will lose this war. But this is not the only main thing. The main thing is what we prove with our victory, with our cooperation, what you prove supporting Ukraine. Together we prove that life is a value, that people matter, freedom matters, Europe matters.
President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, joining us on the program is Barrister Chukwuemeka, is a former lecturer on diplomatic and consular relations law, Faculty of Law, Nasarawa State University, KEFI. Joining us from our Abuja studios in the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you.
We did see President Volodymyr Zelensky just now enjoying that warm reception from the Danish. And in that rousing speech, as we saw by the reaction from the crowds, he was playing the Europe card, if you like, talking about how Europe will emerge stronger, paraphrasing him, I am, of course, and also equating the liberation of Ukraine with a fight for liberty around the world. But for those who want to read between the lines and who want to be unbiased in their judgment of these affairs, is there anything that President Zelensky is missing?
I don't think he's missing anything for now, because the history of Europe has been the history of wars. And one cannot discuss the Russian-Ukraine war without delving back into the history of wars, not only affecting Europeans, but affecting the whole world. You recall that the First World War was fought essentially by Europeans. The Second World War was fought by Europeans and other parts of the world, and it began in Europe. Then this war is in Europe. After the Second World War, the whole world said never again. So nobody saw this coming, but because the way it is going, who knows? When Germany invaded Austria, Czechoslovakia, and the then Czechoslovakia, which is now two countries, Czech and Slovak. So definitely those days, nobody, they thought, the world thought that it was merely European war. So that's why we have to be careful. We have to be conscious. We have to be vigilant in what is happening in Ukraine, because Zelensky is speaking for Ukraine, but nobody knows tomorrow whether it will still be Russian-Ukraine war. It might exceed Russian-Ukraine war and become a world war. Nobody prays for that, but it is possible. That was how it started in 1914. Germany, when they invaded, definitely you saw that Turkey, the then Ottoman Empire, joined Germany. So at the end of the day, we saw what happened. So as Zelensky is speaking, the world is taking note. The Balkans have held a meeting in Greece, and the European Balkans feel that they are the most involved, and they are uniting, entering into a defense agreement so that an attack on one will be an attack on all. It is true that NATO has that in its Article 5, but Ukraine is not part of NATO, and definitely the NATO will not go to war because of Ukraine. at least for now. But with the donation of 19 F-16s by Denmark to Ukraine, and Netherlands is suggestively 42 F-16s, which will be delivered within the next 3 years. Anything can happen. The Russian ambassador to Denmark, Vladimir Babin, has said that this is an escalation, and nobody knows where we will get to, because basically Russia doesn't want Ukraine to determine the peace. Russia wants to determine what happens. And with the delivery of F-16, there is possibility that Ukraine will match Russia in air power. So Zelensky has spoken, but the world should listen and remember that what is happening is beyond Zelensky.
Indeed. And do you think this is precipitating an acceleration of the arms race? Now, for your information, that Germany is about to take delivery of the Arrow 3 air defense system from Israel with the approval of the United States. Now, this Arrow 3 air defense system is said to be in many ways superior to the Patriot systems, which has helped the Ukrainians a lot, the Iris systems, which has helped Ukraine as well, and because they say that it's stratospheric. The stratosphere is from where it intercepts missiles and what have you, as opposed to the atmosphere, where the Patriots and the Iris operates. It's really, really capital intensive. We understand that Germany is paying, or they have paid, or will pay Israel $600 million as the first tranche of payment to receive this air defense system, the Arrow 3. What Germany gets eventually will Ukraine get, since Ukraine is Germany's fast ally right now?
No. Ukraine will not get. Ukraine will not get. It is quite capital intensive. I'm aware of the engagement of Israel and Germany over Arrow 3. It is quite sophisticated and it's not easily given to countries. And you just have to know that because of strategic reasons, the United States must approve the delivery to any country before Israel will deliver. Because, as in your intro, you have just said that United States approved for Israel to supply to Germany. So I can tell you for free the United States will not approve it for delivery to Ukraine. Besides, Ukraine cannot pay for it. They don't have the resources to pay for it. And Germany will not deliver such a weapon to Ukraine. Certainly, Germany has to be under attack to use that weapon. It's not an everyday weapon. It's a strategic weapon for self-defense, and it's not easily used. And Israel has not even supplied it to many countries as for its next port of call to be Ukraine. So I don't suspect that it will be delivered to Ukraine. Look at the F-16s that had always been in the market, although at America's determination before it will be delivered. But look at how long, from February last year to today, we are just discussing about delivery. Even Denmark that we deliver 19 says by the end of the year. So if F-16 is, they are finding it difficult to deliver it to Ukraine, Arrow 3 will not be delivered either by Israel or by Germany. And usually there are clauses in these defense agreements which do not allow technology to be transferred easily without the consent of the supplier first had and obtained. So definitely Germany will not be delivering Arrow 3 to Ukraine. I think with the F-16s, it will be a game changer. Ukraine is not even requesting or expecting Arrow 3, whether to come from Israel or from Germany.
It's one thing Mr. Eze, it's one thing to be looking down the wrong end of the barrel of a Kalashnikov or an Uzi or any other type of weapon that they're using nowadays. It's another thing to be running from cover of an F-16 fighter jet. You just said that it will be a game changer. Other analysts beg to differ. They say that it will not be a game changer, but it will help keep Ukraine in the game. Also because of the fact that it's a tall order for the support system and the pilots to be ready for combat with F-16 fighter jets in a crash course, which they say a conservative estimate will be time of operations for these F-16s will be January next year. So just as the cluster munitions have come, and we have not heard much in the way of how effective they are, although they say they are effective, but there's not a lot of noise made about it, will these fighter jets also come as the cluster munitions have come and not put so much as a dent in the defenses of the Russians, who also say they will take the battle to Ukraine and it'll obviously escalate the situation?
No, my simple position is that the F-16s will be a game changer, and I have reasons to say so. Definitely, why is it that America has not supplied it all this while or given authority or consent for other countries to supply? Why is it that when America refused continuous collaboration with Turkey on production or usage of F-16s in Turkey, why did Turkey become so angry? I mean, after the coup. So F-16 is a game changer by all means. Why is it that Vladimir Babin, the Russian ambassador to Denmark, is crying blue mother that with the supply, Ukraine will be in a position to be strong on the peace table anytime it comes up? So it's not for nothing that these things are happening or have been happening. The F-16 will be a game changer. For now, there is nothing, there is no plane, I think, that Ukraine can use that Russia has not mastered. It is a product of Russian technology. But the F-16 is a product of American technology. So once it is used, definitely it will be a game changer. It will definitely ensure the liberation of some of the parts of Ukraine, like Mariupol, that has been under the siege of Russia for a long time, Kharkiv, Melitopol, Donetsk, even Crimea, Bakhmut, and so many other parts of, like currently you are aware that Kupiansk is under heavy fighting between the parties. Limansky, Advisky, Marinsky, all of them are under heavy attack by Russia. Once they have the F-16s, they'll find it easy to harass and put fear in even the artillery attacks going on. They'll be able to have air cover and allow their men moving to effectively defend their territories. So F-16 to me will be a game changer.
The cloak and dagger nature of Yevgeny Prigozhin, the Wagner mercenary group leader's appearance and disappearance, is now becoming something to take note of, because now it appears in the latest video that we have shown today that he may be in Africa, though he didn't confirm that to a T. Before this, about 1,500 Wagner mercenary soldiers are reported to have departed Belarus for Africa, not saying where exactly they will be. Will his presence in Africa, if he is indeed in Africa, as this video suggests, be a warning signal to some of the West African countries who are having problems with security in their nations?
Yes, it should be enough warning that things will not be the same. Recall that Wagner Group had been in Central African Republic, though not part of West Africa, for a reasonable time before moving over to Mali, Burkina Faso, and these ones are very close to Niger that ECOWAS is planning to attack. And Wagner chief, Prigozhin, Yevgeny, speaks in tongues. Surprise is one of the elements he uses with his mercenary group, and they are ready to make the best out of it. So I think we have to be cautious and do our intelligence gathering very well, because it wouldn't take them a long time to move, especially now that Burkina Faso and Mali has committed itself to the defense of Niger. So if we get in a long-drawn fight, we might be having the Somalian effect or the Afghanistan effect. That's the more reason why we have to be careful to study that the global military conflict, the combativeness of the atmosphere, things, they are taking a new shape. You just know the beginning, but you will not know the end. And if we take it to another level, we may not be able to control what will be out of it. Prigozhin, his disappearance, coming up and going out, I mean, it's there to ensure that Russia has a global influence. You ask yourself, Vladimir Putin is a student of history. He has come to put his name, to leave a legacy of Greater Russia. Recall after the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, Russia did everything to eclipse many of the Commonwealth of Independent States like Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Poland, and many other countries in Eastern Europe, which it later gave up, allowed them to have independence in 1990, 91. So as it is, people like Vladimir Putin, we are not happy that that global influence was lost, and is quite ready to restore it. And he has been doing a lot to restore it, not just Ukraine. We've seen the case in Georgia earlier enough, 2008, when he separated Ossetia and Abkhazia from Georgia. Today, these are parts of Russia. They claim to be republics, and taking over. They are completely under the control of Russia. Belarus is under the control of Russia. As for the ones not under the control of Russia, if the war goes on, nobody knows. Lithuania, Latvia, all of them will be eclipsed. Even Poland will not be completely free from invasion. The only saving grace is being a member of NATO, and certainly an attack on one will be an attack on all, according to Article 5. But for those ones that are not members of NATO, nobody knows what will happen to them. And that's why they are coalescing. There's collocation. Things are happening fast. And when Prigozhin speaks, you can see many countries catch cold, because they are completely under the influence of Russia. And that's why before we move to Niger, we have to do a lot of intelligence gathering and look beyond the putschs in Niger, that we may likely draw up, come before, coming to instigate a global war that will be supported on one side by the West and the other side by Russia. And if it continues, then we remember nobody has had victory in Somalia. Initially, Americans had gone to Somalia, they couldn't solve the problem. Many people, African Union had gone to Somalia, they couldn't solve the problem. So before we engage in any war, we just have to be careful to ensure that shock and awe, that our decision to shock and awe will be sufficient enough to do the magic and ensure that the terror in the Sahel will not eventually overflow to the countries that will be participating in the planned ECOWAS invasion of Niger. So I'm just being particular about this because our country is involved, and certainly it will not just be a sub-regional affair. Prigozhin refused to mention any place, but we all know that his appearance should not be ignored completely. Military analysts will do better by analyzing what he is doing. I'm not a military analyst and I don't know all, but the signs are there. The signs are ominous that wherever war erupts in this world now, Russia and the West will try to play their roles.
And not to forget that Prigozhin has been able to evade any sort of arrest or capture, keeping in mind that he has a $250,000 reward bounty on his head, and we don't see any bounty hunters getting to him. But for countries including China, Brazil, Russia, all roads have led to South Africa for the BRICS summit, which starts today. As Russia attends the meeting via video link, that is President Putin, and possibly the Russian representative in person, what do you think the primary considerations should be, aside from the economic imperatives and objectives of this meeting? Will it be in keeping with peacekeeping and global considerations for these countries to use that opportunity to try to get Russia to toe a more conciliatory path in this war?
I don't think they have that purpose. BRICS, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. I don't think that's an economic group, but although they have their political interest and they believe in the leadership of Russia and China, I think they are trying to develop a new global order that will be multipolar, and not currently they think we are living in a unipolar world, and they are being oppressed by the United States of America. So this is a group of people that want to do away with the dollar and introduce another international currency, perhaps the yuan, to rival the dollar in international trade, so that debts and many other things will no longer be qualified in dollar, or dollar being used as the common denominator for engagements in world trade and other things. They think because the dollar is the common denominator, it gives America the leverage to impose sanctions on countries who refuse to do their biddings, and those countries end up suffering so much. So in the absence of Vladimir Putin in person, though he will join by video, Lavrov will be there. So besides I don't think they have a common interest to ensure that there is more conciliatory tone, because if they do that, you recall that South Africa had led some African countries. There were 6 that visited Ukraine and Russia. Up to today, we don't know what they have achieved. The war has intensified. So I said it earlier in this program on another day that the African team will achieve nothing. And with the escalation of the war, it shows they have achieved nothing. BRICS is not intended to ensure that there is conciliatory tone. They want to ensure that they are looking at the economic angle, that if they are able to manage that, definitely the other aspects will be easily taken care of. Once they have their own currency and sanctions will no longer have the maximum effect on them, then they can square up with the US and dictate their terms and ensure that we have a unipolar world. I cannot contemplate what that will turn out into, and I don't know their intentions, but one thing is common, that they don't want the United States to dictate to other countries. They feel they are powerful, they feel they have come of age, and they don't think the dollar as currency should dictate world trade. And they are doing everything.
Sorry to chime in. Sorry to butt in. You just said that the African mission achieved nothing. Well, in the same breath, would you say that the Saudi Arabia initiative achieved nothing, the Chinese initiative achieved nothing? 3 of these countries have had very vocal suggestions and peace plans concerning the war in Ukraine. Brazil has spoken up, China has spoken up. South Africa have spoken up. And none of these initiatives have yielded any fruit yet. But just as the Saudi Arabia initiative was said to be the groundwork for possible more talks in the future, and this is coming from President Zelensky himself, then maybe these other initiatives as well will form a basis for such peace talks in the future, because President Putin, actually having hosted the African mission, said he was going to carefully consider some of their suggestions. Whether he will live up to that expectation is another story entirely. And we know that the BRICS summit is essentially a business meeting. But we also know that without peace, there can't be any commerce, there can't be any economy, there can't be any business. So if these countries are really serious about wanting the war in Ukraine to end, then isn't it just a matter of course that they will also use that as an opportunity to call Russia to order?
No, definitely. One should not be optimistic that BRICS will call Russia to order. They won't do that. Definitely they won't do that. I'll be surprised if they do so. Considering the Saudi Arabian summit, it was, recall that Russia was not in that meeting. So Ukraine was there. So I take it as non-bipartisan. It is preliminary. They are preparing the ground, so we should not see that as definitive. It's not definitive, so it is ongoing. The Vatican, they have not succeeded. I don't know whether the Pope is still talking to both parties.
No, he's not.
Brazil.
The Vatican is not, they're not talking about, what they're doing now is more humanitarian initiatives. That's what they're doing now. The Vatican is talking more about the humanitarian effects, tragedies that this war is bringing about, and they've backpedaled, as it were, on preferring solutions as far as peace goes for this conflict.
That's why I said I don't know whether they are talking to them at the back. That's what I said. For Brazil, since the election of Lula Inácio da Silva, definitely we know is pro-Russian. And being pro-Russian, we know the direction. We know the direction of Brazil. Brazil is one-sided, and when you read their statements, you can read between the lines that they slant whatever they say to end up in favor of Russia. BRICS will not call Russia to order. It will not do that. BRICS wants to redefine international currency, international trade, relying on the dollar. So I know that BRICS will not call Russia to order.
Will they at least use that as an opportunity to draw, sorry, Mr. Eze, will they then, let me rephrase that then, will they use that as an opportunity to draw attention to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine and call for peace, not necessarily then using that as a platform to talk about peace plans?
Sure. It will be in their interest to call for peace, and definitely they will, but they will not apportion blames. They will not. So basically, and if they will, it will be pro-Russia, because you are aware that Putin will be taking part in that meeting by video. So Putin will not be participating in that meeting, and the meeting will in any way make statements that will indict Russia. Apparently, impliedly, or expressly. He will be participating in that meeting. And Lavrov, his foreign minister, will be physically present there. The communique that will come out of that meeting, Russia will play a key role in determining the words to be used. So certainly none will be against Russia. The organization will not gain anything to expressly or impliedly say anything, that will be anti-Russia. So, but calling for peace, Russia still calls for peace, but peace on its terms. Peace that will make it retain part of Ukraine. As far as the other side is concerned, that is not peace. Because while Russia thinks it is acting in self-defense by calling it special military operations, Ukraine and many countries in the world see this not as an act of self-defense as provided in Article 2 of the United Nations Charter, but as use of force. I mean, unreasonable use of force. So it will take time, and there will be battlefield victories before we begin to see the end of this war. So the war will still be on for a reasonable time.
I've referred to this as strange bedfellows, historically, geographically, culturally speaking, but economically not so. We were reminded that the collective GDP of the BRICS nations now exceeds that of the G7. And much talk has gone around the world now about tipping the global balance away from the West to the global South. And these countries of BRICS, are we going to see that in practical terms? The dollarization, the de-dollarization of the world economy, for instance. Can that happen in practical terms? And which currency will then be the alternative? Or will there be a strengthening of the currencies of the respective nations? Latin America, we know, is not standing in a strong place as far as Brazil goes. But when you're talking about China and maybe Russia, it's a different story.
I think what we are looking at in this context is that as they continue the push and the operations of their bank goes global, we can see the dollar being withering away little by little until we get to a point that the parties can look at themselves face to face and say something must give. So I think they are driving it to, and you cannot underrate this G5, that's the BRIC nations. And you are aware more than 20 countries still want to join. So as they keep joining, we'll get to a point that when BRICS becomes like 70 countries, and with the support of these 5 countries, when they speak, you can no longer ignore them. So they've started a revolution, and they are not stopping today. So we expect that they will continue this because China doesn't want to continue to play second fiddle.
Yes.
Neither Russia will do.
Yes, that revolution is being televised, practically. Thank you, Mr. Chukwuemeka is a former lecturer on diplomatic and consular relations law, Faculty of Law, Nasarawa State University, KEFI, for your insight and your contributions this morning.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful for inviting me.
After the break, Chinese President Xi Jinping in Johannesburg, South Africa, for the 15th BRICS Summit. Details in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome to the sophomore stretch of today's special coverage of Russian invasion of Ukraine. We are in South Africa. Johannesburg is filled with a welcoming atmosphere for the upcoming 15th BRICS Summit and the Chinese President Xi Jinping state visit to South Africa. National flags of China and South Africa are being displayed along streets of the city, where an arterial road is decorated with signs and billboards applauding Xi's state visit. At the BRICS Summit, leaders of member nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa will meet to discuss challenges facing the developing world and will consider the question of expanding BRICS membership. And we'll be showing you the Chinese President Xi Jinping in Johannesburg to attend the 15th BRICS Summit to pay the state visit to South Africa. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, together with South Africa International Relations and Cooperation Minister Naledi Pandor and Nkosazana Clarice Dlamini-Zuma, Minister, Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, greeted Mr. Xi at the O Tambo International Airport, Johannesburg. President Cyril Ramaphosa welcomed President Xi Jinping for his state visit to South Africa. Mr. Xi said he is very glad to visit South Africa again and looks forward to in-depth exchange of views with President Ramaphosa on deepening China-South Africa relations and issues of common interest. The Chinese president extended sincere greetings and best wishes to the South African government and people on behalf of the Chinese government and people in a written speech, noting that this year marks the 25th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and South Africa. Mr. Xi emphasized that the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries has entered a new stage. Now let's talk to Channels Television South Africa Bureau Chief Betty Dibia, who joins us from Johannesburg. Betty, good morning. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Olumide.
Now, we know that China and South Africa, China has visible presence in South Africa as it does in many nations around the world. And this being a state visit of the President Xi Jinping to South Africa, combined with the attending the BRICS summit, is almost like killing two birds with one stone. For the people of South Africa, can you tell us what the mood has been since this summit has been announced and now that it has come to be?
Well, generally, for any country or most countries, the opportunity to host world leaders, I mean, it's great for the economy. So people are quite happy. South Africa is a friend to China, as China is a friend to quite a number of countries, and they do business together. South Africa is China's largest African trading partner for the past 13 years. And their friendship is something they do not hide, from others. And as you said, this is part of the 25th anniversary of the relationship between both countries. And he's visiting, or this state visit is at the invitation of the South African president, of course. But the BRICS summit proper will be beginning about 4 p.m. local time here. So they're killing two birds really with one stone. And there's so many business opportunities they've been talking about together and with the whole house as well. And beyond the BRICS summit, they do a lot of things. They're talking energy, they're talking trade and more trade, which has been going on. South African goods go to China as well. South African wine, among other things.
Now, we know, is there a danger or a possibility that some of the incidents that happened in South Africa recently may overshadow or be brought to the fore as this summit goes on? We know that there's been an incident concerning the transportation sector, concerning the taxi drivers in a certain location. The relationship between South Africa and Russia has been criticized, and President Cyril Ramaphosa's handling of it, even as far as the peace mission to South Africa by President Ramaphosa. Will schools of thought who don't agree with South Africa's foreign relations or diplomatic policy, domestic policy, I beg your pardon, will they use this as an opportunity to protest or make their voices heard?
Well, as we're speaking, there's a protest, an anti-Russia protest going on over the invasion of Ukraine. A lot of people have said a lot of things, have written a lot of things, but the countries are going ahead with the agenda that they have, which covers quite a lot of things. And Sunday night, I believe, the President Cyril Ramaphosa, gave a strong address to the nation, like the toughest we've ever heard him, saying we stand by what we're doing. We need to have a fairer multilateral world. And going by the agenda of this summit, it says a lot. We've heard them saying a fairer or a multipolar world where not a few will be determining the fate of a lot or of many more countries. So they're going ahead with what they're doing. President Vladimir Putin of Russia will be joining virtually, although the foreign minister has arrived today. President Lula da Silva of Brazil has been around for about 2 days now, and President Xi Jinping arrived last night. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima arrived last night as well. He will be part of the BRICS Plus dialogue, and he will be among those addressing the body on Thursday. But the meetings will start today from 4 p.m. local time, where they will talk about several things. There will be a closed plenary. They will discuss money, as we were talking about that with the last guest. They will be talking about the local currencies. They will be talking about even women, marginalization of women in peace processes. They will be talking about how the development cooperation between or among all the countries, including youth development, so many other things. And we know, of course, balancing or providing alternatives for what they're talking about, the global world order, for people to be more, or for the global setting to be more democratic, so to speak. And we have over 40 countries either signing up or applying to be part of BRICS, and those who are interested in the new development bank of BRICS. The BRICS currency is still in the infancy stage, so that's not really coming up now. But how to use anything but the dollar is part of what they're going to be, discussing as well.
Thanks, Betty. We see the welcome wagon has been rolled out, the red carpet for all these leaders from around the world, from these 5 nations in South Africa. And we look forward to seeing how it all turns out. Thank you, Betty. Channels Television, South Africa Bureau Chief Betty Dibia.
Thank you.
Finally, on the program, German prosecutors say they searched the home of 2 Kremlin activists under suspicions that they violated a law that regulated the production and transfer of war weapons. The activists, Max Schlund and his romantic partner, Alina Kolbesnikova, have organized multiple rallies protesting Germany's support of Ukraine since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion last year. Ulf Wullen, a representative of the Cologne Public Prosecutor's Office, confirmed the raid was conducted over suspicions of a violation of the War Weapons Control Act, but denied it was connected to their aid for Donbass in eastern Ukraine. He declined to comment further on the investigation. And that's where we leave it for today's coverage of Russian invasion of Ukraine. Thanks for watching. I'm Olumide Macaulay. Have a good day.